Just 3 words. But it's not a request, is it? It's a demand. And that one phrase, that's what kicked off one of the absolute best long-form stories we've seen on TV in years. And believe it or not, it all happened inside a wrestling ring.
So today, we're going to break down the saga of the Bloodline. Seriously, this is a story about a family dynasty, a tyrannical king, and the bonds that were forged and then, of course, completely shattered, all in the name of power.
So you gotta ask, how did this even happen? How did a wrestling story get so good that it had people hooked, comparing it to huge shows like Succession or The Sopranos? Well, the answer is all about patient, long-term storytelling and a conflict that, let's be honest, we all understand: family drama. To really get it, we have to go back to the very beginning. It all starts with the return of a king.
Okay, so let's set the stage. The year is 2020. A familiar face shows back up after some time away, but he's not the same guy. He's fundamentally changed.
This is Roman Reigns, but he is not the hero he was supposed to be anymore. Oh no, he comes back with this cold, calculating vibe, and he declares himself the head of the table, the tribal chief. Basically, he's the one who provides for everyone, and he's the one who calls all the shots. Period.
And let's really dig into that term, tribal chief. This isn't just some cool nickname, you know? It's a title that's absolutely dripping with meaning. He's claiming total control over one of the most famous families in wrestling history. We're talking the same family as The Rock. And the price for being under his protection? Simple. Total, unquestioning loyalty. And this quote, it just perfectly explains his whole deal. It's control, but it's disguised as protection. He's basically saying, I'll keep you safe, but it's on my terms. As long as you fall in line, as long as you acknowledge him, you're good. But what happens if you don't? Well, that question leads us right into our second chapter, where we see how this new empire is really built. It's not with words, it's with brutal, psychological force used against his own blood. And the first person to actually challenge the tribal chief is his own cousin, JEY USO. And their whole conflict is just perfectly laid out right here. For Roman, it's all about holding on to power, no matter what it costs. But for Jey, it's this really honest, relatable question: why can't I be the one? It's a question that threatens Roman's entire empire. So how does Roman answer him? Well, this is how. It's not just a defeat in a match, it's a complete, systematic dismantling of a man's will. He doesn't just beat Jey, he punishes him, he humiliates him, and then, and this is just cold, he uses Jey's love for his twin brother Jimmy as a weapon to force him to give up. The moment JEY USO finally says, I quit, man, that's not the end of a match. That is the sound of a man breaking. So with Jey now in line, the empire just grows. They become completely unstoppable, grabbing every major championship in sight. The Bloodline isn't just a family at this point. They are the dominant force in the entire industry. But, you know, it's the arrival of an outsider, this totally unpredictable wild card, that ends up planting the seeds for their own destruction.
And that brings us to, I think, the most important character in this whole story, who wasn't even related by blood.
Meet Sami Zayn. He is the complete and total opposite of the cold, serious Bloodline. He's this lovable, kind of neurotic underdog who just desperately wants to be accepted by the coolest, most powerful group around. He's basically us, the audience, right? He's a stand-in for anyone who's ever just wanted to belong.
And yeah, he starts out just like everyone else. He bends the knee. He acknowledges Roman, hoping, praying for a spot at the table. At first, they treat him like a complete joke, you know, the court jester. But his passion, it's just impossible to deny.
And he absolutely earns his place. He takes beatings meant for Roman, he proves his loyalty over and over and over again, and slowly but surely, he starts to break through that cold exterior. He becomes the honorary Us. But more than that, he becomes the actual heart of the group. He brings this warmth and humor that was never there before. The fans just absolutely adore him for it. And for a paranoid king, that is the most dangerous thing in the world. Which brings us right to the climax. The moment when the crowd's love for one man becomes a direct threat to another. See, Roman Reigns just can't handle how much people love Sami. In his mind, all that adoration, all that praise, it has to be for him, the head of the table. So what does he do? He sets up this public loyalty test, this final trial, that's really just designed to humiliate Sami and put everyone back in their place. And it all comes down to this. Roman gives Sami a steel chair and orders him to hit his own best friend with it. The crowd is going insane.
Sammy he's hesitating. You can see his conscience warring with his desire to belong. Roman gets in his face. He's screaming at him. And then, the ultimate insult. He turns his back on him. And in that one fatal moment, Sami Zayn makes his choice. He swings the chair and he hits Roman Reigns. The sound of that impact was just incredible, but it was nothing compared to the explosion from the crowd. I mean, we are talking years of tension and emotion, all released in one perfect, cathartic moment.
So the Empire is broken. But in all that chaos, there's one person's reaction that matters more than anyone else's. The first man Roman broke, JEY USO. So, whose side is he on now?
And that question, it leads us right into the final, tragic act of this story. The complete and total implosion of the family.
JEY USO is given an ultimatum, and it's the same choice he's been facing this whole time. Is he going to fall back in line with his abusive leader, or is he going to stand with the family that Roman has ripped apart?
And this time, after years of being tormented, after watching Sami Zayn show him what true loyalty actually looks like, JEY USO finally stands up for himself. He chooses his brother. He chooses his own blood over the man who just claimed to represent it. His entire character arc comes full circle in this one amazing moment of defiance.
And with that, the Empire falls. Jay's words make it official. The most dominant group in modern wrestling is over. Destroyed from the inside out by the paranoia of its own leader and the courage of the people he tried to control.
You know, at the end of the day, the Bloodline saga was never really about winning championships. It was a tragedy, a story about a family completely destroyed by one man's desperate need to be acknowledged. And it leaves us with this haunting question, one that was echoed in the music of its final moments. If you could turn back time, if you could make a deal with God to swap places, would you change a thing? Or was this epic downfall always just inevitable?